sober up, Jungkook whispered. Jungkook blinked at him, confused. Sober up? What are you? But before he could finish, Taehyung had already walked back inside. That smug little curve is still on his lips. The balcony stayed quiet except for the crickets and the faint heat that escaped Jungkook's mouth. Right, about that. No one at the dinner table noticed it at first. Jungkook came in quietly, pulled out his chair, and sat down. He didn't greet anyone loudly or make his usual small jokes. His face was calm, but his eyes, they had that far away look, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. His hand found the wine bottle, one glass gone in a few gulps. A polite smile notes all the conversation. He wasn't listening actually at all. Second glass, he neither took a sip or taste. Literally, he gobbled up the entire glass. Third glass, by then the soup hadn't even cooled. Steam still curled from the bowl. But Jungkook's focus was locked somewhere else entirely, in the dark swirl of the wine in his cup. Everyone was too busy talking with Taehyung to notice what was happening at the other end of the table. By the time they realized, Jungkook was already tipsy, sitting there quietly but with cheeks flushed in a faint pink tone and a slightly dazed look. And then he started talking. At first, it was harmless, a few small comments, but then the words came faster, spilling out without much thought, things he will never actually say or absolutely regret when he sobers up and remembers. The truth was, the whole evening didn't go as he planned at all. The fake boyfriend plan had failed. Yoongi had rejected him in public. His family and Taehyung had teased him until his ears burned. And sure, Jungkook looked goofy most of the time, but in reality, he was actually an extremely silent Mira. And by the time he reached the balcony, his mind was not clear enough to understand that what actually he was babbling with Taehyung. And that explains the out of nowhere courage that Jungkook got at that moment. Next morning, Jungkook's room. Sunlight stabbed him in the eyes like an mortal enemy. He groaned, rolling over, face buried in his pillow. His brain was slow, foggy, with a bit of headache. And then the memories popped back slowly, one by one. The dining table, the parents, the marriage talk. Oh no, he whispered into the pillow. He remembered screaming, literally screaming his lungs out that he was willing to marry Taehyung. And he also remembered Taehyung not saying no. He remembered, actually, wait. What did they talk about on the balcony? Jungkook sat up, rubbing his face, trying his best to remember everything. But nope, nothing. His brain is just blank. His brain literally hit the portal auto-delete for the balcony scene. But judging from the fact that his chest felt both giddy and anxious at the same time, he was pretty sure that he had said something very stupid. "I'm so dead," Jungkook muttered. At that exact moment, somewhere across the house, Taehyung was sipping his morning tea with a suspiciously calm and happy smile, like someone holding onto a top secret. Guys, do you remember that this is top secret of Yoongi? I try to say it's exactly that vibe. Breakfast table that morning. Jungkook dragged himself into the dining room, looking like a boy halfway through a crisis. Hair messy, very oversized hoodie, eyes squinting at the brightness. Mrs. Jeon frowned, then eyed him up and down. "Mrs. Jeon, Why are you walking like that, Jungkook? Now, what happened to you? Out of nowhere? Huh? What have you done again? Morning, Yoma. Just leave me alone, he mumbled, collapsing into the chair. Taeyong was already there, perfectly put together, reading the news on his tablet, like he hadn't just participated in last night's chaos. Jungkook's Yoma, what's this guy doing here now? And then turned to Taeyong and said, Professor Kim, don't you have classes? Even before Taeyong could reply, Mr. Jeon Jungkook, gosh, it's weekend. You seriously? And what's with the tone, huh? Didn't you just agree to it last night? Sit down now before I throw my spatula on you. The corner of Taeyong's lips twitched when Jungkook sat down, trying to maintain distance from him, because he was in an insanely good mood now. He looked towards Jungkook. Slept well? Taeyong asked. Voice casual, but his eyes flickered up for a split second, holding just enough amusement to make Jungkook uneasy. Fine, Jungkook muttered, pouring himself a coffee. Taeyong took a slow sip of his tea. Good. I was wondering if you remembered anything important from last night. Then coffee nearly went down the wrong pipe. What do you mean? Jungkook screamed. Oh, nothing. Taeyong smiled sweetly, too sweetly. Just that it's not every night someone tells me how they truly feel. Jungkook froze, mid-stare. Oh no, oh no, oh no, no, no. There it was, the goddamn certainty that he had said something he should not have. And it was probably the most embarrassing thing for someone like him in his personal history. I said that? Cook asked carefully. Taeyong shrugged. You said a lot. Some of it was quite flattering. Jungkook's ears went red. Flattering? How? Taeyong leaned in just slightly, his voice dropping. Well, my dear, you will have to figure that out yourself, he said to Jungkook. Then he went back to reading his tablet like nothing happened, leaving Jungkook staring at him like a confused and spooky little omega. Across the table, Mrs. Kim was very obviously biting back a smile. Mrs. Jeon eyed them both suspiciously, sensing something she didn't yet understand. Mrs. Kim and Taeyong were staying the weekend at Jungkook's home after Mrs. and Mr. Jeon requested them earnestly, with the excuse of planning for the wedding engagement-related events. Back to Jungkook. Jungkook gulped down his coffee, deciding one thing for certain. He had to find out what he had said last night. He must figure out before Taeyong teases him to nowhere, making him go crazy with anxiety. Later that day itself, Jungkook had been pacing his room for 10 whole damn minutes. He needed to know the problem. There was only one witness to his possible public emotional self-destruction, and that witness was none other than Kim Taehyung. Who, by the way, was acting like he had been handed the keys to Jungkook's soul and was planning to keep them forever just with him. A pretty little secret. So Jungkook made a plan after almost going crazy of trying to assume. Step 1. Taste Taeyong. Jungkook found Taeyong in the living room, casually scrolling through his phone. So, about last night, Jungkook began, trying to for casual but sounding like someone about to confess to a crime. Taeyong didn't even take a look up. Jungkook, what exactly did I say? Oh, Taeyong set his phone down, his face the picture of innocence. Just a little something about feelings, attraction, maybe marriage. Wait, I think I might be mixing the order up. Not quite sure. Jungkook's jaw dropped. Attraction? I didn't. Taeyong smirked. Oh, so you didn't? And just like that, he got up and left, leaving Jungkook's soul halfway out of his body. So, unfortunately, our little cookie's well-made plan flopped right at step 1. Few hours later, kitchen. Jungkook cornered Mrs. Kim while she was making soup. Auntie, did you hear something last night? Like between me and Taehyung? Mrs. Kim raised an eyebrow. Why? Did something romantic happen between you two? No, Jungkook lied instantly. I just wanted to check. She gave him a sly look. Well, you did come in after the balcony looking suspiciously red in the face. Jungkook's heart stopped. I did? And Taeyong looked very pleased. She stirred her tea slowly. Should we be planning the wedding ASAP then? I. Like, you two are literally flirting around with each other quite well within just one day, huh? Auntie, Jungkook yelped, fleeing before she could tease him more. Later that night, Jungkook's internal crisis. By the time he went to bed, Jungkook had gotten zero answers. All he knew was that Taeyong was sitting on some big secret and clearly enjoying watching him squirm and panic by his teasing time to time. Lying in the dark, Jungkook pulled the blanket over his face. He was starting to wonder if maybe, just maybe, what he had said wasn't embarrassing at all, but something he wouldn't have done or had the guts to admit while sober. And that thought was way more dangerous. He panicked even more. What if, just what if, he spilled some of those secrets about Professor Kim? He guarded deep down his heart till now. The next day, Sunday. Sunday's picnic organized by Cook's mother and Taehyung's mother. Because after a long time they gathered together and blurred into a reel of chatter and clattering plates, and the endless chorus of Mrs. Kim urging Jungkook to eat more. He tried to protest, but one glance at Mrs. Jeon's narrowed eyes had him stuffing another triangle of kimbap into his mouth. His stomach was battlefield, but across the yard, Taehyung said at a please. He wasn't loud, he didn't try to grab any attention. He just helped his mother carry trays, poured drinks for elders before anyone could ask, and handed Jungkook a bottle of water with that maddening calm expression. And every so often, he had tossed an entire remark that sent the family into a burst of laughter. It irritated Jungkook how effortless it was for Taehyung, while he was getting bombastic side-eye from his mother, telling him to go and do it together with Taehyung. Taehyung was looking like he belonged everywhere, while Jungkook was stumbled through the chaos with crumbs on his shirt. Or maybe it was not irritation at all, something heavier invested or twisted in his chest, something he refused to put into words. To be honest, deep down in his heart, Taehyung was just too perfect to him, in front of whom he tried to be cool, but at the end of the day ended up looking like his usual messy self. Monday morning. The house was quieter after the laughter faded. Mrs. Kim fussed with Taehyung's collar as if he were still 10 years old, while Mr. Kim loaded the luggage in the car. The Jeons hovered nearby, pressing containers of dishes just made into Taehyung's hands. Don't work yourself to death, Mrs. Kim sighed, patting his arm. I will manage, Taehyung said, voice steady. He always said that, and it wasn't empty. He really did manage. His classes, his company, duties, his research. Somehow he held it all together with an ease that made Jungkook feel like a messy scribble standing next to a perfect drawing. Jungkook leaned against the doorway, hair sticking up like a hedgehog, still half asleep. He felt like a child caught sneaking cookies compared to Taehyung, who stood tall, composed, hands tucked in his pockets like he had the world figured out. If one South Pole, then the other was definitely and definitely the North Pole. Just before sliding into his car, Taeyong turned. His eyes found Jungkook's sharp but softened on the edges. See you at university, fiance, he murmured, lips curving into that smirk that never failed to set Jungkook's blood boiling. And before Jungkook could think of a comeback, the car door shut and Taeyong was gone. Jungkook lasted exactly 5 seconds before storming back into his room, throwing himself face first onto the bed and muffing a strangled scream into the pillow. By Tuesday, reality struck him like a slap. Taeyong was not just the smart fiance who teased him at family gatherings, he was Professor Kim Taehyung, the infamous figure students whispered about in corridors because of strictness. The man was a walking contradiction, cold and unreadable. His tone was always cold, his questions straightforward. People either admired him or avoided him in his direction. And yet, Jungkook's phone buzzed with his messages between classes. Don't skip lunch. You looked pale this morning. Jungkook almost dropped the phone in the middle of class. Pale? Weak? Who even said things like that? And why did it sound hotter than half the confessions he had ever gotten? He shoved the phone deep into his pocket before anyone saw the blush scraping up his neck and his scent gland throbbing due to the excitement and shyness he was feeling deep down. Taeyong's days were packed, yes, but never chaotic. He spent mornings and afternoons moving seamlessly between university lectures, research, and side branch management for Vkookff in Busan. Assistants handled minor details, but every important decision, every schedule adjustment, every meeting was his responsibility. He moved through it all with quiet authority, like a skillful business expert that he actually is. Jungkook, in contrast, was a shy, soft-spoken, goofy mess of an omega. Even if he came off crazy, he is very shy, actually, and very careless. He had never pulled Taeyong out of his rhythm. That was impossible. But Taeyong had already decided that Jungkook would be his cute little distraction, the one part of the day he could bend down to his own desires. On a Wednesday early evening, right after all the classes ended, Taeyong slid into Jungkook's path near the campus cafe, hands tucked casually into his pockets. Humbly, easy, voice calm but insistent. Jungkook blinked, then quietly stared at Taeyong for 10 seconds straight, trying to process the situation mentally. Then he realized. His cheeks heated up. I was just... No excuses. Taeyong cut him off smoothly. You are coming now, with me. And like that, Jungkook found himself wandering beside Taeyong, trailing a few steps behind, utterly flustered, while Taeyong led him to a quiet riverside spot where the city lights reflected on the Han River water. Taehyung didn't need to say much. His presence alone made Jungkook's heart beat like a hammer. A small smile tugged at Taehyung's sleeves as he watched. Jungkook fumble, tug at his sleeves, avert his gauges, and mumble half-formed sentences. Taehyung leaned back against the railing, letting Jungkook's shy energy wash over him. You know, he murmured, almost to himself, I easily get used to having you like this. Jungkook's ears went red, his hands itched him, he didn't know what to say. He could barely meet Taehyung's eyes, and Taehyung added, yours sincerely, but in a different tone. I can't wait for the day you will be mine for real, Jungkook croaked, the words sinking in. His heart thumped faster, and a tiny nervous smile escaped despite himself, trying to hide it, but he could not with all those butterflies. Taehyung's hand brushed against Cook's as they walked back, and though Jungkook didn't dare grab it, he didn't pull away either. This was their little rhythm of love. Taehyung intentionally creating small moments, and Jungkook blissfully unaware of how completely he had captivated the man in front of him, who was just the man who was underneath the glass wall.
계획은 아니었는데 잘 되었습니다.
This, I mean, yeah,